Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Robert Spetta here with you today on the 30th of September 2011. And out here in the Western Pacific today, we continue to watch Tropical Storm Nesat now move on shore over Vietnam, as well as Typhoon Nalgae moving out towards the Philippines, expected to make a landfall by early part of next week. And also noting this little stationary front up here extending from eastern China out over towards Japan. Going to bring some rain showers due here across Honshu, but behind that is going to be a big spilling in or a surge, if you will, of cold air coming in towards the south, going to drop temperatures down across much of China here, Korea, and Japan over the weekend. But first, we're going to dive into Tropical Storm Nesat here, moving off towards the west. It currently has a sustained of 50, gusting up to 70 knots, and a 985 HPA at the center of the circulation here. It did move over 9 yesterday, though. It dropped an exceptional amount of rainfall in some of the cities there. One city reporting about 162 millimeters of rainfall in a 24-hour period, as well as Hong Kong farther off here towards the east saw an exceptional amount of rainfall due to some of the rain bands coming out of this system yesterday. Saw about 50 millimeters of rainfall at the airport there. Some reported in, a little bit higher in some of the other locations there as well, but I do want to know a lot of the winds did get upwards of tropical storm strength, and that caused a lot of debris to fly around, and there was reports of upwards of 25 injuries in the city there yesterday. Good news, no reports of any deaths though, but a lot of down trees and a lot of damage, basically superficial damage across the city. So good news, the storm headed off towards the west. I would not be surprised if we get some damage reports out of here, and hopefully no casualty reports of Hanoi, but it did make landfall there as a typhoon and dropped in a very high amount of rainfall. But the storm is continuing to track off towards the west here, towards Vietnam, where it's expected to make landfall this evening across the country there, and then continue on towards Laos, where much of Indochina as well has been seeing a very strong monsoonal season, so they're not going to need any more rainfall here. And actually, this is just showing the trim flood potential across much of southeastern China here in Vietnam and out towards Laos. You're seeing these areas in red, and that means that there is a high chance of flooding across this region here as the storm makes landfall. So not good news at all as far as the rainfall out of this. I would not be surprised if some areas see upwards of about 200 to 300 millimeters of rain, and this could compound and exacerbate the problem that you've already been seeing out there in Indochina. So we're going to continue to watch for reports out of this system as far as the flooding out of there. Hopefully no casualties come out of it yet. At this time it does look pretty grim. But also I do want to mention over here towards the Philippines, you see some of these areas in yellow and red. Well, that was also due to Typhoon Nesat has moved across the country there, bringing a very high amount of rainfall. This is actually showing over 300 millimeters of rainfall in some locations here along central Luzon. Upwards about 400 millimeters of rainfall were reported in a few areas. 375 reported out of the Subic Bay there. So very heavy rain is tracked across Luzon on the 26th into the 27th. I do want to note this one area here in purple. That's mainly due to that banding that came on shore and it hit these mountains right in here. And as I was noting before landfall, a lot of that rainfall got squeezed out like a sponge along these mountains here, and that's why you see that heavier right there, and actually it's a little bit less right here on the lee side of these mountains. So good news if you live over here, you didn't see as much, but basically these areas along the eastern coast of the Sierra Madres, that's where you see those higher totals. And this is also going to play into with Typhoon Nalgae as it moves off towards the west here towards Luzon. Now this system not as wide as Nesat was, but it is packing the winds, 80 gusting up to 115 knots right now and 955 HPA. So a very deep slow, and it is still expected to intensify, reaching upwards of a 100 or maybe higher than that sustained winds. So it is going to be a very strong system at landfall. It is tracking a little bit farther towards the south than originally was anticipated out here on the forecast. I was noting here actually about 2-3 days ago about the possibility of that surge coming down. We'll dive a little bit more on that in a second, but the storm is seeing a lot of good circulation right now. Actually, if we look at the IR water vapor differential, you've seen a lot of this moisture being pumped in from the south, so that's allowing a lot of that moisture to build up on the system not only, but also aloft. We're still seeing that high pressure, so that's allowing for good divergence loft as well. So the system is expected to maintain and increase in intensity as it continues to track off towards the west here along the southern periphery of this high pressure up towards the north. And that can be seen here on the streamline analysis, noting all these areas in blue indicating that negative vorticity associated with the high, and it's not going to want to run towards that location. As I've noted in the past, typhoons and tropical systems alike want to run downhill towards a lower pressure, kind of like water just basically flowing. They always want to go down. So if that is the case, it's going to continue to track off basically in this direction towards central Luzon right in here. You can kind of see that dip right concentrate in this region, and that's where it's going to want to follow, is that overall background flow. Definitely not going to see that recurvature towards the north. So looks like Taiwan, you're starting to get more in the clear here, as this system likely will follow out towards the west and then recurve off towards the west-northwest, basically in the same location as Nesat made around Hanai here. So a very dangerous situation, as much of these areas have already seen these high winds and rainfall in the past week, and if this storm does remain on that similar track, it definitely will compound and exacerbate the problem out there. But showing you here GFS's outlook on this system, noting that landfall around central Luzon by this weekend here, actually on Saturday evening into Sunday. You're going to see that landfall bringing all that rainfall, and that is mainly due to that more southerly course, is because of this spilling of air from the north here. You see this ridge here? Well, this is all associated with the Asiatic high following in behind that trough of low pressure over Japan. That'll also be bringing a precipitation out there. But with all of that, it's going to push the system a little bit farther towards the south. And also with that alike, as this continues to ridge off towards the southeast, the storm will likely recurve and follow around the backside of it off towards Hanai. So just something to note, as it recurves and tracks off in that direction, could bring some high winds and heavy precipitation to Hong Kong as well with some of the outer rain bands. But also this area out here in Indochina would definitely have to brace for yet another storm. I know they're still dealing with Nesat out there, but this one looks like it will maintain intensity as it tracks off towards that direction. So could be a little bit stronger than the previous one. But here is the current warning for Typhoon Nalgae here. Current winds of those 80 gusting up to 100 knots. That is per JTWC, but at landfall they're expecting it to max at 110 gusting up to 135 knots. So a very dangerous situation at landfall with those extremely strong typhoon strength winds, but also noting, as with the previous storm, that storm surge up here near Apari and along the Sierra Madre region is very highly probable, and a lot of this area likely will get evacuated here in the coming days. But also, you're still going to have that backside storm surge coming in from the west. I don't think it's going to be as strong as with Nesat due to the not as wide wind field here with this storm in Manila. So good news, I don't think that there's going to be a surge there in Manila, but there is going to be some high waves, so definitely not one of those days to venture out towards Rojas Boulevard there and with those breakers that come over the walls there. So going to continue to watch this storm as well, though, after it tracks off into the South China Sea, expecting it to redevelop upwards of typhoon strength and continue off towards Hanai yet again on a similar track as Nesat. So really kind of a deja vu with this system, but different in the fact that the ground out here across the Philippines is already saturated and definitely can support any more rainfall, and at the magnitude of about 200 to 300 millimeters of rainfall total as the system tracks across, and possibly even higher than that in many locations. So this is going to be a very dangerous situation as it goes off in that direction. But we will continue to keep you updated here at westernpacificweather.com. Weathercaster Pat will be putting out another video later on today, so stay tuned for that as well. And please, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, post them in the comment box below. So thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.